Welcome to Korea from Inside, your trusted channel for the latest and most fascinating stories from Korean entertainment and culture. Today, we've got something truly exciting for you. Actress Song Hye Kyo passionately kisses Lee Min-ho in the rain. Is it a new drama? A surprise scene? Or something more? Let's dive in and find out. Right now, the city lights blurred in the distance, their reflections trembling in the puddles beneath the couple's feet. Rain fell in soft sheets, but neither of them moved. Not even an inch. Lee Min-ho stood there, eyes fixed on her, chest rising and falling, not from exhaustion, but from holding back everything he had tried so hard not to say. Song Hye Kyo's hair clung to her cheeks, rain dripping from her lashes, but her gaze burned brighter than the street lamps around them. "You really want me to walk away?" he asked, voice low, the tremble almost hidden beneath his control. She didn't answer. Instead, she took one slow step forward. Then another. The world around them melted into a hush, like even the rain was waiting. "Do you know how long I've waited for you to ask me that?" she whispered. "And do you know how long I've been afraid you'd never come?" Lee Min-ho reached out, brushing a strand of wet hair from her face, the touch lingering like a promise. Then, with no more words, he kissed her, not like in the dramas they had acted in, not like the scenes scripted by others, but with all the years of longing, with all the moments they'd missed, with every heartbeat that had whispered her name. The kiss deepened, fierce and tender all at once. The rain soaked them through, but they didn't care. This was the kiss that unraveled everything, the past, the distance, the silence, until all that remained was the raw, breathless truth between them. The night was supposed to be like any other in Seoul. The rain came down in gentle whispers, painting the city in glistening hues of melancholy. Lights reflected off the wet pavement, and the rhythmic patter of raindrops composed a quiet symphony. But in a small alley tucked behind a film set in Gangnam, something extraordinary was about to unfold. It began innocently. A late-night shoot. A wrap-up scene. Tired crew members shuffling about, packing equipment. Song Hye Kyo stood near a narrow alleyway, draped in a pale beige trench coat, hair damp from the persistent drizzle. She looked ethereal under the street lamp, as though she had stepped out of a dream. Her eyes, usually calm and enigmatic, held something different tonight. Something burning. Across from her, Lee Min-ho approached, tall, statuesque, effortlessly charismatic, as always. He had just shot his final scene. He didn't look ready to leave. There was tension in his stride, in the way his eyes searched for hers. "Was that your last take?" he asked, voice soft, barely rising above the rain. She nodded. "Yours too?" He gave a curt smile. "Yeah, I think there's one more scene left." "One they didn't write." She tilted her head. "What do you mean?" He stepped closer. The space between them, still bridged by unspoken emotions, began to close. The sound of footsteps, crew chatter, and distant traffic seemed to fade into a hush. "I mean this," he said. And then it happened, without another word. Lee Min-ho reached out, his hand trembling slightly, not from cold, but anticipation. Song Hye Kyo didn't back away. Breath caught, eyes widened, but there was no fear, only recognition, like something long awaited was finally arriving. He kissed her. Wasn't just a kiss, it was an explosion. A confession. A scream muffled by rain and lips colliding with years of restrained emotion. It was fire meeting water, a passionate contradiction that pulled the universe inward. The crew froze. One gasped. A boom mic dropped to the ground. A camera operator, stunned, kept recording, hands shaking. The kiss went on, not for seconds, but what felt like minutes, raw, consuming, electric. Neither pulled away. They were soaked, shivering, trembling, but completely lost in each other. And then, just as suddenly, they stopped. Song Hye Kyo stepped back, breathless, her hand lingering on Lee Min-ho's cheek. Her voice was a whisper. "Why now?" He looked at her, rain dripping from his lashes. "Because I can't pretend anymore. Loved you through every role, every line, every look you gave me on screen. But I want the off-screen version. I want the real you." Silence. Then came the sound of a shutter. A paparazzo, hiding behind a dumpster, had captured it all. The kiss. The aftermath. The confession. By morning, the entire world would see it. The headlines screamed across every media outlet. Images of the kiss were plastered on every screen, every phone, every newsstand in Korea and abroad. Fans were torn, some ecstatic, others shocked. Speculation erupted. Was this a real romance? A publicity stunt? A hidden relationship finally exposed? The agencies remained silent. No statements, no denials. Just silence. But the story didn't end there. The next day, Song Hye Kyo disappeared. Agency reported she had taken an indefinite leave. No details given. Rumors swirled, emotional distress, a media breakdown, even plans to leave the country. Lee Min-ho, however, did the unthinkable. He called a press conference. Standing before a sea of reporters, microphones pointed like weapons, flashes blinding. He looked resolute. Yes, he said, voice firm, that kiss was real. And so are my feelings. The room erupted. Questions fired like bullets. Are you two dating? How long has this been going on? Was this part of your drama promotion? Min-ho raised his hand, silencing the crowd. This is not about work or media. It's about two people who found something real in a world built on fiction. I love her, and I'm not afraid to say it. Backstage, unknown to the press, Song Hye Kyo watched through a screen, tears falling freely. In that moment, something shifted. That night, she reappeared, at his doorstep. No words were exchanged. Just a look that said everything. And once again, in the rain, under a sky now filled with stars, she kissed him. Not for the cameras, not for the headlines, but for them. And this time, they didn't let go. This turned into weeks. The scandal evolved into a phenomenon. Reviews, opinion pieces, and social media spirals couldn't contain the fire they had ignited. But while the public debated, Lee Min-ho and Song Hye Kyo were living in a different kind of storm, one far more private, and far more real. They retreated to a seaside village in Jeollanam-do, far from the lenses and questions. There, they rediscovered each other. One morning, as the sun spilled golden warmth through the old hangak's wooden panels, Song Hye Kyo sat cross-legged on the floor, sketching absent-mindedly in a journal. Lee Min-ho walked in, still sleepy, carrying 2 mugs of coffee. You know they still think we're acting, she said. Without looking up, I know, he replied, placing the coffee beside her. Let them. She looked up, smiling. This isn't a drama. No, he said, kneeling beside her, brushing her hair back. It's better. Because the script isn't written. We write it every day. Leaned in, and kissed her again, this time slow, deliberate, sacred. It wasn't about fireworks now. It was about the quiet kind of love that stayed long after the spotlight faded. Later that night, they walked along the beach, barefoot in the sand. The stars blinked lazily above them, and the tide whispered promises in their ears. She stopped, turning to him. Why me? She asked softly. Took a moment, then whispered, because you see through the world like I do. You know the price of fame, and yet, you still dare to feel. Tears glistened in her eyes, and he held her hand tighter. You make me want to be more than a name on a poster. You make me want to be human. In that moment, they weren't Lee Min-ho and Song Hye Kyo, international celebrities, drama icons, faces of luxury brands. They were simply Min-ho and Hye Kyo, two people who had collided like thunder and lightning, fierce and luminous. And when they kissed again, it was no longer a question of beginning or end. It was simply, forever. Months later, the world watched again. Through a lens hidden in a dumpster, but through a live broadcast, Lee Min-ho and Song Hye Kyo stood hand in hand on stage at the Blue Dragon Awards. He had just won Best Actor. She had presented the award. As he took the mic, he smiled. There was a time when I thought the greatest thing I'd ever do was act. But now I know, the greatest role I'll ever play is being the man beside this woman. The room erupted in applause. But this time, there were no gasps. No questions. Just belief. Beneath the spotlight, they kissed once more. Not in fiction, not in rain, but in the light of truth. And just when the world thought it had seen it all, Song Hye Kyo turned to the audience and spoke into the mic, her voice steady. What started in the rain wasn't the beginning of a love story. It was the end of hiding. The end of fear. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Gasps rippled through the audience. She opened it, revealing a simple, elegant ring. It's ho, she said, her eyes locked onto his, glistening. Will you marry me? The crowd went silent. Lee Minutes Ho blinked, stunned. Then he laughed, tears falling down his cheeks as he knelt before her. Only if I get to propose next time. They embraced, 1,000 flashes going off, but none bright enough to outshine the love between them. In that moment, the story that began in secrecy, surrounded by rain and whispers, came the most unforgettable truth of all, written not by screenwriters, but by hearts finally